yields back. The chair now recognizes the gentleman from Illinois for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee. Ms. Summer, you're in the unfortunate position of having to take some slingshots from members of the committee that I think are legitimately directed to CFTC, but not to you maybe personally, but I guess you have broad shoulders and you're going to have to accept that. I'm wondering in the first instance why Mr. Gensler isn't here today.
Congressman, Mr. Gensler has recused himself from matters regarding MF Global.
It's interesting to me that Mr. Gensler, who's been willing to come in here hearing after hearing to explain the inordinate delays that CFTC has had in regulations and rules on perhaps the most important, at least as to the agricultural community nationwide, the most important hearing we've had in years, has chosen to send you in here for him. We're glad to have you here, but I find that in light of his past filibustering entirely unacceptable. When did he first determine that he was going to recuse himself?
It is my understanding that he made that decision on November 4th.
Is that because he's part of this whole same Goldman Sachs fraternity that includes ministers of foreign governments in which the money was invested, Mr. Corzine himself, Mr. Gensler himself, and this whole nebulous group of individuals? Is that why he's decided to recuse himself, because he's part of that group, or why did he do that?
I do not know the reason.
So you're simply here, and we appreciate your being here, but I find that entirely unacceptable, and Mr. Gensler is here somewhere in the room or listening to this, which I assume he is. I must tell you that from the standpoint of Congressman Johnson, in light of your past testimony and the role of CFTC, I find your failure to testify here totally unacceptable. We need answers.
So, gentlemen,
sure.
Yeah, I just wanted to, inform the gentleman that, I think the thing that precipitated this is that Senator Grassley asked Chairman Gensler to recuse himself.
Well, I'm not
Senator Grassley. So it was Senator Grassley that precipitated this. So just so people understand.
And if both gentlemen yield, I would note, I believe the chairman is out of the country today. Is that correct?
Yes, he is.
He's in Europe.
When and from whom did CFTC first hear of these concerns that were actually expressed as long ago as June that MF Global was undercapitalized?
It is my understanding that CFTC staff, in reviewing a focus report that was submitted to us by MF Global in August, showed the undercapitalization for July.
Does your entity, does CFTC, have the power or authority to force a firm into bankruptcy?
No, we do not.
What is your authority in that regard, and how far can you push the envelope, so to speak, in terms of your role in the process?
For a BDFCM, that would be up to SIPC. For a firm or an entity that was an FCM only, the FCM would have to initiate the bankruptcy proceedings.
How often do you examine the FCMs?
The CFTC is not the frontline auditor for FCMs. That is, the self-regulatory organizations are the frontline auditors for FCMs.
Was there a point, and if so, when was it, when you audited MF Global, and what were the results, if any, of that audit?
The DSRO would be the one to audit, and in MF Global's case, the DSRO is the Chicago Mercantile Exchange.
And again, can you explain to us, just so I'll understand when Mr. Corzine is here later, because he's the other part of the trilogy, what the basis is by which Mr. Gensler has chosen to recuse himself? I just want to know the background. I don't understand. I think Mr. Peterson's, Mr. Lucan's questions, Chairman Lucas's, are good ones. The points are good ones. I'm not entirely sure I understand what the basis was for the recusal.
Congressman, I'm not familiar with the basis of his. He has a recusal letter, but that is the limit of my understanding.
I guess the last question, which is in some ways almost a rhetorical question, and I think probably everybody in here, the chairman, ranking member, and the members of this committee, and I'm not sure you're in a position nor your co-witness at the table to answer. I think on behalf of farmers and the agricultural sector, investors all over the country, we need to know how soon we give answers to our constituents, our people, or trying to buy seed, and otherwise when they're going to get their money back? What would you expect?
I understand that completely and want to emphasize that that is our number one priority, and we're working closely with the trustee to make sure that happens as soon as possible.
Well, I guess my last question is I know and I appreciate your desire to get that done. I guess my question is if a co-op, as they have, a number of co-ops in my district would ask me, and I were to give them an estimate, what would I tell them? So they got to buy seed, land, and equipment, and various other things right now for the next crop year.
Yes, I understand that. People should be getting another, assuming the court approves our motion, another $2 billion shortly, which should get them up to around 69–70%. Until we recover more funds, if we recover more funds, we can't really do further bulk transfers at this point. We have started the claims process. It has a 60-day period. We started it on an expedited basis. We're already reviewing and determining claims. And through that process, people should get the remainder of the money that's available. I can't really give you a better estimate than that of exactly how long it will take. As has been noted, some of the accounts are fairly simple to determine. Some are very complicated.
My time's run out. I would just simply say that we're all here in an inside the Beltway operation, and there's millions of people around the country whose lives are depending on what we do.
We're well aware of that.
Gentleman's time has expired. The chair now recognizes the gentleman from Iowa for 5 minutes.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman.